natured, hospitable, benevolent even.
He is at the bottom of Grosvenor Place by this time, and has made up his mind to try Aunt Louisa. Mr. and Miss Gorsuch live in a street out of Grosvenor Place, too expensive a street for Mr. Gorsuch means, which are larger in appearance than reality, but a fine house, in a fine neighborhood, is a standing evidence of wealth, and as such is worth all it costs. There are so many things in which prudent, careful people can save money, notably in their meals, and the food they give their servants, since these matters appertain to their inner economy of a household, and are secrets to the outer world. Miss Gorsuch pinches in all domestic details, even down to scouring paper. Mr. Gorsuch gives 3 state dinners in the season, supplied by Gunter, banquets of imposing appearance, but washed down with wines that range from half a crown to 4 and 6 pence per bottle.
Alexis, fully aware of his broken-down appearance, is too wise to put forward his relationship as a claim to be admitted, despite the footman's suspicious look. He simply asks to see Mrs. Gorsuch, but he gives his real name, Mr. Secretan. He is left in the hall while the footman communicates with his mistress, whose voice is heard in the library at the back of the hall. She can hardly deny herself when I can hear her talking, thinks Alexis. She does not deny herself. The man ushers him into the library, a square apartment with a gloomy outlook and 2 pompous bookcases containing law books and a few of those classic authors whose works are more largely bought than read. A fire burns frostily and cheerily in the bright steel grate. Mrs. Gorsuch sits at the table with a row of tradesmen's books and a ponderous plated inkstand before her. She has been trying to reconcile discrepancies between the butcher's account of meat delivered and her own idea of the meat that ought to have been consumed. 3 pounds of rump steak sit heavily upon her soul. She cannot see how those 3 pounds of butcher's meat can have been honestly eaten, and she is haunted by the image of an all-devouring policeman, or those bloodsuckers, the cook's relatives. She is a little dried-up-looking woman, with stiff bands of light auburn hair, pepper-castored with gray, a brown merino gown, a pinched-looking lace cap, and a double-eyed glass attached to a chain which glitters in the rosy light of the fire, as she turns to look at her visitor, glass in hand. "Alex!" she exclaims. "Good heavens, what a change!" She saw him last as a guest at one of her state dinners, elegant, prosperous-looking, with the easy, self-assured air of a man certain of success in life. She sees him now reduced to the lowest ebb in the tide of man's existence. He comes to her as a beggar, mendiancy in writing on his face. "Yes, there's a marked decadence from the young man about town, is there not?" he replies. "You see the brand which destitution stamps upon her children. I have fallen very low in the world since I used to come to your swell parties. You were very kind to me in those days, Aunt." Miss Gorsuch winces, knowing so well what is coming. "So kind that I have made up my mind to sue for a small kindness today. It goes against the grain, but—" "Before we talk about kindness, Alexis, perhaps you will be good enough to explain how you have sunk to this absolutely disreputable condition," asks Miss Gorsuch, looking at her nephew's boots. "The easiest thing in the world," answers Alexis with agreeable recklessness. "I have spent all my money and have not yet acquired the knack of earning more." He sees, dimly, that there is little to be hoped from this flesh and blood of his, and that placid despair, which is his normal condition, enables him to take things easily. "Earning?" echoes Aunt Louisa, with a bitter sneer. "It isn't in any of your race to earn the bread they eat. My father made his fortune by honest industry. Your father thought he honored our family when he exchanged his landless gentility for my sister's 30,000 pounds. Poor Maud! It was a lackless day that brought him across her path." "Reserve your pity, Aunt Louisa. My mother's married life was a happy one. I can bear witness to that." "Happy!" exclaims Miss Gorsuch contemptuously. "Was she in society?" This question she evidently considers unanswerable. Alexis respects her opinion and makes no reply. "Can you compare her position with mine?" "Certainly not. You have a handsome house in a fashionable street, a bishop for your right-hand neighbor, an earl on your left. You have the orthodox establishment of a lady and all the cares that accompany it. My mother lived a roving life in some of the loveliest places of this earth, and she had no servant but the maid who waited on her when she was well and nursed her when she was ill and loved her dearly always. My mother's society consisted of few friends who were faithful to her through all changes of fortune. Those do not count, of course. No, she was not in society, but perhaps when you and she compare notes as to your earthly experiences in a wiser world, you may find that the balance has been more evenly adjusted than you can suppose now. Miss Gorsuch has hardly heard him. Her mind is troubled by a grave doubt. I hope you did not tell the butler that you are my nephew, she says anxiously. I had too much discretion for that, and now, aunt, not wishing to intrude myself or my boots, he has perceived her uneasy glances at those patched offenders against the decencies of life, upon you longer than is absolutely necessary, I will come to the point. Will you lend me or give me 10 pounds? If fate is against me, you may call it a gift, but if fortune favor me, it shall be repaid tenfold. I needn't tell you how badly I want money. My appearance testifies to my necessities, but it is not for myself that I am a beggar. It is for my wife, soon to become a mother. What? Almost shrieks Miss Gorsuch. Married? Without income or profession? You have linked yourself to some unhappy creature? Yes, we have taken the liberty to unite our destitution. If the worst comes to the worst, the same pan of charcoal that serves for one will accommodate the other. Your impiety shocks but does not surprise me, says Miss Gorsuch. Such sinful imprudence could hardly be found in a man of religious principles. No, prudence and piety generally go in double harness. Well, aunt, I have my answer. You won't lend or give me the money? In the first place, I have not such a sum to lend. Mr. Gorsuch's position demands the expenditures of our income. We are never in debt, with a shudder, but we have never anything to spare. I have had to strain every nerve in order to pay our annual contribution to the Society for the Propagation of the Gospel in foreign parts. And you have nothing left for a starving nephew at home. Even if I were in a position to advance you this money, which I repeat I am not, I cannot see that your condition would be materially improved by the loan. Where would you be when the money is spent? Exactly where I am now. The money is not for myself, but for my wife. I should not touch a sixpence of it. Who was this unfortunate young woman when you married her? Will you lend me 10 pounds? Asks Alexis, ignoring the question. Sadly to be pitied, poor creature, whoever she is. Some young person of inferior position, I dare say. Will you lend me 10 pounds? I have already told you that I have no such sum at my disposal, Alexis, replies Mrs. Gorsuch, and then hesitantly, reluctantly extracting a coin from a plethoric-looking Russia leather purse, she adds, if half a sovereign will be of some small assistance. It won't, answered her nephew abruptly. I dare say I could make as much in a day by sweeping and crossing, and I shouldn't feel myself so degraded as if I took the money from you. Goodbye, aunt. He has opened the door before he concludes, and Aunt Louisa endures agonies for the rest of the day, fearful that the butler, or man of all work, heard that last address. Remorse for her treatment of her nephew troubles her not at all. He cannot say that I sent him away empty-handed, she reflects. I offered him half a sovereign. End of Chapter 2. Recording by Angela Dean.